Let's get physical. It's Jordan here, back again with this week's update on all the physical releases coming to the Nintendo Switch, January 27th until the 31st, week 5 of January. We're almost out of misery month, guys. As always, we're taking a look at all the physical retail releases, all the low print games up for pre-order, some juicy imports, and our community spotlight where you show off your pickups. Remember, if you want to support this little series, leave us a comment with what you are playing in your backlog and what is the most recent addition to your collection. Personally, well, I didn't pick up anything. It's Chinese New Year here, and things have kind of slowed to a halt. Pretty much the Chinese version of Christmas, that will give you an idea. Plus, I'm currently bordering up my windows trying to survive a deadly plague. Fun times. Hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on Romancing Saga 3 and the Kemco collections once things have calmed down. Anyways, this week's physicals. Here, Roland is seeing a physical release in Europe this week after already being released in North America, featuring a very unique art style and gameplay that seems to be channeling something of a mix between Paper Mario or Earthbound perhaps. This game looks to be a nice attempt at an RPG where customization is king. If anyone in North America picked this up late last year, give us a heads up about its quality. I'm intrigued to know myself. If you're looking to scratch that Banner Saga itch, well, after you've played the Banner Saga trilogy on Switch, then you may want to turn your attention to Ash of God's Redemption, which is pretty much the same thing from different people. A slow, methodical turn-based strategy RPG that could be a decent time sink for those interested in the genre. AO Tennis 2 released digitally already, but now it seems to be getting the physical treatment this week, in Europe at least. While it's not immediately clear, I believe the North American release is in early February, could be wrong on that, information is all over the place. Now the gameplay is supposedly very solid in this one, especially on the simulation end, but it does reportedly suffer from a lot of performance issues, so be a bit wary before taking the plunge, perhaps read up on a couple of reviews first. Right, that's it for Western retail, but before we head into the low print games, don't forget that if you're new here, hit that subscribe button for all the latest Switch content, plus we'll be giving away a Nintendo Switch Lite plus Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening once we get to 50,000 subscribers. We are nearly there! Spread the word to get that Switch faster. Okay, low print games. Limited Run Games announced their latest pre-order, this time for the critically acclaimed The Missing, or if you want to use its long-winded title, The Missing, J.J. McField and the Island of Memories. This is a puzzle platformer from the same director as Deadly Premonition. I know people who are big fans of this one and the hard-hitting subjects that it tries to tackle, with horror elements thrown in for good measure. Pre-orders open on the 31st of January, and there's a standard edition as well as a collector's edition. Strictly Limited have announced their next title, Xenocrisis. Built originally for the 16-bit Sega Mega Drive, this arena shooter is a love letter to games of the era like Smash TV, and it's as authentic as they come. Excellent pixel work, classic old school gameplay. I mean, I wouldn't say no to this. There's both a standard edition as well as a collector's edition. Super Rare Games' next release is Octahedron, a trippy neon-lit disco trip of a platformer. I may be wrong, but I believe this was originally published under the Square Enix Collective, basically Square Enix's indie branch, which perhaps bodes well for other Square games to see physical releases from low-print companies. Although, let's be fair, we'd all prefer them to be standard retail. Orders for this one start on January the 30th, with 4,000 copies available. Also, I don't know why it's taken me this long to become aware of Pixel Heart, but this week I bumped into their website, and if the name seems familiar, it's because they were the publisher of the weirdly limited release of Gigantic Army on PlayAsia. Well, they have similarly low print games up for pre-order on their website, although it's not exactly clear if these will make it to other retailers at some point. I think they will, but in limited quantities. I have no idea actually. Anyways, just head over to check out the 4 physicals they have up for pre-order: Guns of Mercy, Shmup Collection, Finding Teddy 2, and Super Trench Attack. I mean, I have no idea of the quality, so order at your own risk. I believe the North American distribution of some of these titles is being handled by VGNY. Alright, before we head into the inputs, just a heads up that all the games mentioned here, if any of them take your fancy, then in the description and in the pinned comment too, we have links below as to where you can find them for yourself to purchase. They are affiliate links, so any purchase that you make using those links will also help out the SwitchWatch team massively, and we very much appreciate all the support that you've given us in this regard. You know, January is an incredibly rough month for any YouTuber, so your support in this measure really helps us out really very, very much. You guys have been amazing, and it really helps push us forward, and I hope that we can have something lined up for you to show our thanks in the not too distant future. So, anyways, import. After last week's Asian compilation of some Kemco games, a release that I can't seem to get my hands on, by the way, Kemco now have a Japanese release with 4 more games. 4 different games this time around, some of their better known titles for sure: Revenant Saga, Dragon Sinker, Antiquia Lost, and As Divine Hearts 1. 4 budget style JRPGs, perhaps not exactly a must-have import compared to the likes of, I don't know, the Dragon Quest trilogy, but I do love a good quirky release, and as long as I can find it, then I may just have to pick this one up along with the Asian release from last week. Oh, and by the way, for some reason, there's still no confirmation of English being on the cartridge, which I find really quite weird considering all 4 of these games on the Japanese eShop have English. So I have no reason to believe that they don't, but just be wary. I'll try and get this myself and tell you if they have English or not before you purchase. Stay tuned. Like I said, Chinese New Year, Deadly Plague and all that, so things are grinding to a halt for a while here. Bear with me, I'll try and find out myself. Coffee Talk looks set to be an interesting visual novel. I don't know the history behind this one, but I would be shocked I tell you, to hear that it wasn't inspired by the excellent Valhalla. Serving up drinks in a trendy futuristic bar full of cyberpunk-esque characters, this could be a great one as long as the writing is up to scratch. I'm sure this is going to be a must-have for fans of visual novels with an added gameplay twist. I'd love to know your thoughts on this one. Perhaps you're picking it up digitally or physically as an import. Let us know, because English is on the cartridge, so it's a nice friendly import. Leather d'une Ménage is a very French-sounding visual novel, but not a whole lot to say. There's a standard edition and a limited edition, but there is no English on this release. Likewise, Koi no Hanasaku Hayakayan, is another visual novel experience with no English, so I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so let's jump straight into the community spotlight where you guys send me your photos of your recent pickups or collections. As with the import section, some of these games mentioned here or seen are imports, so if any of them take your fancy, check the links in the description below and help support the SwitchWatch team at the same time. Okay, let's begin with Brent McLean. His picture showing off a very nice visual novel collection, which coincided with our very own video talking about the 15 best visual novels on the Switch. Well, it looks like Brent has some of the top tier ones here, including some very lovely imports. On the far left below Deathmark, we have the Grisaya trilogy. I'm dying to know what that's like since it does have English on the cartridge, 3 games in one, and it commands quite a high price. I really want someone to tell me about it. He's also got Valhalla. Limited Run are doing a release of this in the future, but the Japanese release has English, so it's ripe for an import. And Clannad, I've heard fantastic things about this one. The cover itself doesn't scream quality, but I've heard nothing but praise for it. Cheers, Brian. Everyone be sure to check out our top 15 visual novels list after this video. Brett Blair showed off this very lovely RPG collection, some great stuff in there that I'm highly jealous of. As a fan of JRPGs myself, I really need to sort out my priorities and get some of these games. And by the way, I Am Setsuna, yes, that only received a Japanese physical release, but it did have English on the cartridge, and I did have it myself during the very early days of the Switch. I know it sounds quite bad, but I did eventually sell it, not because of its quality, but because when I went back to England one summer to visit, my friend asked if he could buy it from me, and because I'm such a top friend, I said yes. The profit was nice too, I suppose. Anyways, my main man Chicken Perm sent in this recent trio of pickups. I think there was an offer going on. 3 excellent games, so much content in just one picture. Highly recommend all 3. Bruno Silva sent in a couple of recent purchases. Very happy to see Tokyo Mirage Sessions in there. Love that game. Also, I'm not an expert in French, so I'm really hoping that South Park title there translates as Anus of Destiny. I'm sure there's some wordplay going on there, so anyone qualified to explain it in the comments, let us know. Also, a last-minute addition was Shining Resonance Refrain, a JRPG that really very, very few people talk about. It's a decent enough game, and I'm surprised that everyone seems to have forgotten it. Chris Hepburn showed off his recent additions. We must have stirred something in the air because we have another Valhalla, the Japanese release, plus the very recent Psycho Shooting Stars Alpha. He was very nice to do a mini unboxing for us in photo form if you're interested yourself. Poopykins also got in on the Psycho Shooting Stars Alpha purchasing. If you're unsure of how awesome this collection will be, consider heading over to watch my review of the Japanese version of the release, which is slightly less extravagant, but worth a look. After making me quite the jealous gentleman last week with his sought-after Bayonetta's collection import, Steven has only gone and done it again with this import extravaganza. I think someone's been watching my videos, and it's some fantastic import stuff here with the Super Robot Wars games, Gundam, Dragon Quest Trilogy, Atelier Dusk Trilogy, all top-tier stuff. And then you take a look right at the top, that wonderful Mega Man box set collection, 5 cartridges in one, a real collector's item right there. And not to be outdone, Westy90 also had one of those beauties amongst other excellent imports. I'm super jealous that I haven't bought the Atelier Trilogy yet. Bloody Koei Tecmo sending me review codes, making me feel bad. Bender over on Discord showed off this recent edition from Limited Run Games, Battle Princess Madeline Royal Edition. I'm really curious as to how revamped this one is compared to the original release. I'm not overly familiar with it either, but Super Ghouls and Ghosts on the Super Nintendo is one of my favorite games ever, and I know this was inspired by that somewhat, so any thoughts out there, I'd appreciate them. People were also talking about Wonder Boy in the Discord chat, and he showed off this double whammy. I don't think it was a submission for this section, but I snagged it anyway. Be wary guys, I'm always on the prowl for picks. Uriah showed off this very eclectic mix of games, and I do want to point out that Cabella game up the top, that's the sort of release that as a Wii U collector has been the bane of many people's lives, trying to find that big box hunting games such as these ones, especially European versions because we generally don't get many over here. I guess we're just not quite as into hunting, I don't know. But yeah, any very serious collector out there eyeing up going for a mental full set of games, I suggest hoovering these types of games up first when you can, just in case. They may be very difficult to find in the future. Paul Pope showed off these editions, very happy to see TMS in there, and that Turok set is lovely. Would have definitely bought that myself if Limited Run's shipping costs did not murder my bank account. Also, it wouldn't be a community spotlight without Chocoloco James pitching in with something to whet the appetite, a nice Dragon Quest XI haul, the Japanese Collector's Edition, a slime plushie, and a mug. That reminds me, I need a cup of coffee. Transient Image over on Discord showed off this very nice collection. The man has good taste, a fan of shooters it seems, highly recommends Steriden. Loving the old school vibe to this collection too. Wonder Boy, Windjammers, Toe Jam and Earl, River City, Mega Man, classics. Proof that good gameplay never gets old. Fitzstevens couldn't quite fit all his collection into one picture, and we can see why, because that's one lovely set that they have. Lots of limited run stuff, big box, the messenger over there looks really nice. I mean, I don't even know where to start with this picture. There's just so much variety going on, and I love how eclectic it is. Jaytin showed off this picture, which may not be easy to see, but there are some physicals there that you don't see often. At least I don't. There's Trials Rising, I don't see many people with that. Friday the 13th, that might be the first time that I've seen it physically. Then there's even Shaq Fu in there. Shaq Fu! Swizz over on Discord sent in a picture of 2 games that they picked up during Limited Run's January stock clearance. 2 excellent games. I'm a big fan of Celeste and plan on picking up the Japanese release later this year. And I've heard nothing but great things about Dust. I haven't played it myself, but many people recommend it. Alright, let's end this week's episode with my other main man. Can we guess where Peter Clark is based? Yes, this collection of Chinese Hong Kong releases looks quite similar to my collection in parts. I always find it fascinating to see how Nintendo adapted their covers for different regions. And maybe it's just me, but I often find the Chinese or Japanese variants to be a bit more cooler than the English ones, although I may be biased. Thanks ladies and gents, really appreciate you sending in your pictures. If you want to send in your recent editions, either 1 game or 5 or 20, it doesn't matter because it's not a competition. Send it to me on Twitter over SoWhatAboutGame. Please DM me so I can keep track of it more easily, or you can email it into contactors@switchwatch.co.uk. Just make sure to start the email title with Community Spotlight so that I don't miss it. Plus we have Discord, which is a really nice way for us to have a chat with you guys. So if you want to join our server, our link is in the description below. Send your pictures if you want in on that. Right guys, hope you enjoyed this week's episode of New Physicals. What has taken your fancy this week? Be sure to check out last week's episode in case you missed it. Check out the list we put together talking about all the best visual novels on the Switch. And don't forget James's Bargains video telling you where to best spend your money. We'll see you guys over there. Take care.